Hey, Chris, what's
All up.
up? We're back at it again.
And like what, a week later?
Right? Not even.
Not even a week?
Not even.
See,
Well, I'm glad that it's because we have to rearrange our whole life around my upcoming surgery out. So that's the reason why we're a little bit early this month. But it's all good.
it's okay
This is
though.
gonna be a great episode.
I can't lie. I kind of like the back to backness. I don't know.
Do you?
I like the frequency. Yeah, hit me
Oh,
with some
all right.
frequency. I'm all about it. So
All right. Well, we might do these more than once a month then. Who knows?
Hey,
Who knows?
I'm down.
All right. Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to Keeping You Wise by Keeping It Real, where we bring authentic and real conversations to fuel the soul that you can share with others. Welcome to our 5th episode.
Is this 5?
Where we will discuss, this is 5. Can you believe it? It's 5.
Nice.
Where we will discuss Through the Storm, a journey to mental health and healing with a special guest who will be revealed right after this break. You are funny.
I like the tune. Can I just brag on you for a second before we bring our guest on? Can I just brag on you for a second?
Okay, go ahead.
With the intro, testing like the song volume, doing the video. Like Paula, you're an impressive individual. You know that. So this is just the chat. This is for the audience. I know that a lot of the times you want to take advice, and good advice doesn't seem as good if you're getting it from a source where you're just like, I don't want what you have, or you don't seem qualified to give it. But I feel like you're qualified to give good advice. I could tell you, audience, this. I've taken Paula's advice and my life has skyrocketed because of it. I'm on this podcast with Paula because of her advice, and it feels fulfilling, and I appreciated it. Like, I didn't want to jump on here, but you said you should. You got a gift for it, and it feels fulfilling. So even if no one ever watches and no one ever sees this, Paula, I appreciate you, and I appreciate your advice.
Wow.
So
well, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I didn't pay Chris to say that, y'all.
You impressed me.
You are too funny.
Yeah. You know, I didn't know where you found that tune.
You are. I'll tell you afterwards. I'll tell you afterwards. But for those who are just joining in, who you're like, who are these two crazy people talking right now, right? My name is Paula Bell, and this is my co-host, Chris Solomon. And we are over the podcast, Keeping You Wise by Keeping It Real.
Yes.
But before we jump into our topic today and introduce our special guest who will be joining us, I just want to put out a few disclaimers. We are not therapists, and we do not offer any medical advice. We are not trained, qualified, or able to diagnose or treat any form of mental illness or disorder. And some of the topics we may have on may be triggering, so it's okay if you have to step away. The purpose of this video cast is to have real, authentic conversations that provides wisdom to all of us so that we can share and grow and navigate through this thing called life. We do ask, whether you're joining us on YouTube, whether you're joining us on LinkedIn, please interact with us via chat. We would love to hear your comments. And if you have questions, post them in the chat. You never know. They might actually appear up on screen. You just never know. Now, the episodes will be about 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 1 hour max, though. We don't go past an hour. We don't go past. These are aired monthly, and you can follow us, subscribe to our YouTube channels, Keeping You Wise by Keeping It Real, the BA Martial Artist, which is mine, or your boy Solo, which is Chris. So, Chris, let's jump in. Who is our special guest for today?
Our special guest is pretty special. She really is. Her name is Teresa Zilk, and she's the founder and producer of Stories to Tell My Daughter, which is a storytelling platform that highlights the diverse lives lived and experienced by Black women and women of color. She says it's a safe space and a brave space to be seen and heard. And I think that's just beautiful. She's also the owner of Teresa Zilk Creative Consulting, LLC. It's a small business that helps individuals and organizations harness the power of story as a multidisciplinary tool to facilitate change, self-awareness, and increase authentic communication. Teresa has been a featured panelist and speaker on the topics of mental health, storytelling, and women's empowerment. She's a community mental health advocate, a volunteer with Gateway Dance Theater, and a graduate student at Drake University, where she studied counseling. So, Teresa,
hi.
I hope I did okay.
You did great.
Intro.
Thank you. You did great. Thank you.
I have about 3 or 4 more paragraphs here to read about you to really encompass all that you have done, but I'll leave it at that. I don't want to eat up too much more time.
Okay.
Welcome, Teresa. It's great to see you, Queen. It's great to see you. Yes, thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us. So, I want to kick this off a little bit different, or it might be similar if you caught our last episode, but I want to kick this off with a video clip first to get us started. And again, my boy Solo and Teresa have not seen this video clip.
Unscripted, raw.
I'm just going to roll with it. Just gonna roll with
it.
Teresa. Right. But this. I think it's gonna give us a jumping point to start talking about some things around mental health and wellness, and even to share our stories on some of the things that we've encountered. So let's check out this clip and we'll be right back.
I'm bipolar.
Really?
Yes. I have been since I was 15.
How come you never told me?
Well, who wants to hire someone with a mental illness and entertainment law? Aren't we crazy enough? Sorry.
So why are you telling me now?
Because you're more than work. And you should know what you're dealing with if we're gonna see each other outside of the office, which I would like. But I have incredibly low periods. So low that I can barely move. I am impossible to be around. I can barely answer the phone. I'm totally unreliable as a friend. In fact, in some ways, I'm probably the worst friend you could ever have. Don't check a single box.
I have a meeting 5 minutes ago.
Okay.
Phyllis, hey, those guys from admin in my office, tell them we have to cancel today. I'll see them tomorrow. Yeah, and I'll tell them I'm really sorry. You want to get lunch?
Mm-hmm.
Get a menu. So where are you right now, mood-wise?
I'm coming off of a low. Tonight I'll be pretty manic. You're the first person I've ever told about this.
How does it feel telling me?
Like an elephant's taken one of its feet off my chest.
I'm so glad you've told me. It explains so much. If anything, not knowing made it a little difficult to connect with you fully, the way I would have wanted.
So you want to get a drink sometime? You want to go to the movies? You want to see people?
All of the above. You are the most fun I've ever been around. I'm not letting that go.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's amazing what trusting one true friend in your life can do.
Wow.
Paula be dropping the videos that hit you in all of the field. Man.
Yeah.
It's gonna make me cry on a podcast, Paula. I
So
also
let's
need
talk
to see
about
this
that.
movie. First off, can I just get the name of said movie? Shameless plug.
Modern Love. Modern Love.
Modern.
Modern Love. I was gonna ask about that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna have to watch that.
Me and Teresa got a one-way. We might get some popcorn and hang out, and watch Modern Love tonight. Like that looks good, right?
I'll watch that. I'm gonna watch that.
I'm gonna watch that as
Wow,
well.
that was a really powerful scene.
What
Really
resonated with you all? What was it that when you watched that scene, what were the parts that resonated with you the most, that tugged at your heartstrings or really made you think?
For me, honestly, it was the whole entire scene. It was her describing, kind of her giving some idea of what her mental health condition is like. I believe she said it was bipolar. And
Mm-hmm.
she gave just kind of a small peek into what her world is like. And I like the fact that whoever wrote this movie um, wrote in a character that for her, that was her friend, that had empathy and
Mm-hmm.
was willing to understand and was willing to be somebody that she connect with. Because so many times what I've seen and what I know that people with mental health challenges can face is that sometimes their families, their friends, their communities, people don't always show as much empathy as they possibly can.
Right.
And I believe that a lot of that actually has to do with not understanding the totality of mental health and how it actually is impacting the person who has it, right?
Good point.
So I guess that's one thing that jumped out to me. I don't want to hog the conversation, Chris.
No, it's a
Yeah,
hit.
so
I
yeah.
love that, and I'd love your perspective as a professional in this space because it's scary, right? To your point, Teresa, I think a lot of the friends and family are a lot less, empathetic because what do you say? What are you supposed to do? And I think that was a good example of exactly what you should do. You validate.
Right.
You're there. You tell your truth. It was hard for me to connect. You not telling me, and I thank you for telling me. It must have been hard for telling me. And I got a lot out of that just one scene, and just from what you said. I'll say this: the biggest thing that stood out to me is how painful it is when somebody internalizes a self-image that is just so low. Like her sense of self-worth. Like the person that she sees, I have complete terrible lows, and I'm a terrible friend, and I'm a terrible this, and I'm too much of that, and I'm too little of this. Like she's internalized all that. And she thinks that it's true. And it's not true. From the other person's mouth, who may be seeing her more clearly than she's even seeing herself, you're the most fun I've ever had, and I am not letting that go. And it's good just to get some perspective sometime on who you really are, especially when you're caught in these places that are so low that you see yourself as like, it's what did Dr. King say? It's important that you believe in your own sense of somebodyness, right? Like,
Somebodyness.
and it's like sometimes we forget that we're somebody, we're somebody important. We may be the most important thing to some other folks. And I feel like this friend, to your point, Teresa, pulled her out of it. And that's exactly what she needed. That's what stood out to me. Paula, what do you think? Or Teresa, I'm sorry.
Well, I wanted to say a couple of other things. First, I just want to stress that I'm a student. I'm not yet
The
certified
teacher.
or licensed to do anything, but I'm on my way. 2025.
All right.
Um, but I wanted to say that a lot of times when people get a diagnosis, and this is just my opinion, that I think society, clinicians, everybody involved in the process, we need to be aware that when people get a diagnosis, that the diagnosis is accurate, right? It needs to be an accurate diagnosis. And two, um, people sometimes people start to
Label
identify with
themselves.
that
Yeah.
diagnosis.
Yeah.
And so it's really important for them to have people in their corner, people in their lives, just the way that it was exhibited or in that movie clip, that help you remember who you are. And to
Exactly.
your point, Chris, to help you see yourself in a different light, that you are not whatever the diagnosis is, that you are way
Exactly.
more than that.
Exactly. That's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing, because I feel like labels are the most dangerous thing sometimes, right? You label yourself as, oh, I'm bipolar. It's like, no, you're not. You're Chris Solomon, you're Paula Bell, you're Teresa Zilk. You're so much more than any label could ever be. And would you use that diagnosis to potentially get some help, medication, professional advice? Sure. But you shouldn't define who you are because of one label. Because what else are you? Hard worker, wonderful mother, incredible brother, excellent son, whatever. You're so many other things. And when you identify yourself as the one negative thing, it eats you alive, and that's all that you are. So I feel you on that one.
Yeah, and also to your point as well, that scene I think also really encapsulates how society really views people with mental health. Now, yes, she's speaking in the negative about herself, but that scene encapsulates a lot of how people actually view others with mental health, people
That's
with
a good
mental
point.
health
That's a good
issues.
point.
It really does speak to that. And though the individual is has yes internalized these things, but the things that they're saying are probably true about having a manic episode. It's probably more than likely true that really low lows, those things are true. um but I just want to say that really, and I don't know what the whole movie is, the rest of the movie is like, but that scene I think is really powerful, and it speaks on an individual level, but it also speaks in the wider context of society and really uh, how society views individuals with mental illness, and but it also speaks to one of the things that we can do as communities, as a whole society, is show empathy and be a safe place of connection for someone who is experiencing
Hmm.
difficulties like that.
I think she was
And
also
I'm going to
really
be
good at.
quiet, Paula.
No, you're making some great points. I think it's, to your point, the empathy piece is so important. And I also think that, even going a step further like she did, and it was just validated her of where she is, right?
Exactly.
Like, you're not crazy for feeling the feelings that you're feeling right now. You're not weird, or all of these things that you may be internalizing, or all these other unintent, or other people might have put on you or labeled you or said whatever. You're not. You're a good person. I love you. I care about you. I'm gonna clear my schedule for you. You are important. If you didn't know that, you are. And just, I think it's freeing. To our point, feels like an elephant just stepped off my chest when someone is able to sit with you, see you at your worst in your own opinion, and say, hey, I'd feel the same way you'd feel if I was sitting on the other end of this table. And I want you to know that I'm here for you, and it's going to be okay. Like, it's a rare thing, it's a rare thing that you get, or at least it feels rare, which is why we bottle everything up. And I think she wouldn't have gotten to this point if she probably had somebody up front, not, or, I would say, be comfortable enough with her where she wouldn't have to bottle it up. Having that person in your life, people in your life that you could actually, I would say, bare your soul to, is important. So, do you all find that important? Like, do you have soul bearers in your life?
So okay, before I answer that question, I have to say this. So first of all, I've never seen this movie.
Oh, you didn't even see it?
No, I haven't seen this movie.
Oh, we all gotta watch it then.
Yeah, I have not seen the movie.
Watch
So
it's trash. It's like a terrible movie. You know, I was like,
I
oh
hope
man,
not.
we were
I
hyping it
hope
up and we
not.
took a clip and it was
Yeah, I hope not.
I'm gonna say it's probably I think it's probably gonna be a good movie. I'm gonna say it's probably
Yeah.
a good movie because
I've been
I
that
sick
was
of
a
my
good scene.
previews before, Teresa. Okay. Man, that's gonna be a hit. I go and see it and I'm like, whoa. I mean, maybe they
right.
probably
The
shouldn't have
trailer
made
was
a
the best part of it, right?
they shouldn't have made a Terminator 17.
But you know what else I would say about that? I agree with everything you all have said. There's so many people around us who we work with, who we interact with, who are suffering in silence, and we
Mhm.
don't know, and we don't know what triggers them. But another, I'm going to put a little twist on the perspective. Another thing that I thought was interesting was I wonder if, because the woman was a person of color and understands a little bit of how it feels to not
Mm.
fit in or to not, be accepted into certain environments or certain scenarios, if that brought about another layer of empathy for this young woman who's going through a situation where she doesn't really fit in or doesn't feel that she fits in as well. I do think a lot of our own experiences and the things that we've gone through in life can bring about an awareness that others may not see or understand, right? And I just wondered as I watched that, first of all, I was so proud because I was like, we have two women, number one, supporting each other. So I love to see that, number one. That was huge to me, just watching that. And for her to feel comfortable enough to just break down and be vulnerable and transparent. And for the receiving side to be able to take that with empathy, but to keep her intact, to keep her in a space of you do mean something to this world. You do have
Mhm.
value. Even if you have a manic episode, it's okay. It's okay. I'm here for you. And we're going to get past this and we're going to work through this together. I would love to just see that, period.
Yeah.
How we can do that as humanity, period. And so that was just a perspective as I watched it a couple of times as I was preparing for this that really stood out to me. How many times have we maybe missed that opportunity to be that person, to show empathy to someone else and to just be there for them, to just take a moment, clear off our schedules, our busy schedules,
Yeah.
and be there for them.
Just be present.
Yep.
You're
Right.
talking about presence. That's what you're speaking to, presence.
Yeah, just be there and just no judgment, with no judgment. And I think that's
Yep.
really important. No judgment. And I truly believe that when you're dealing with individuals, mental illness has a stigma to it, right? I remember
Absolutely.
when I was growing up, you didn't go to therapists. Only crazy people went to therapists. That was just the stigma, right? If you had a problem, you're supposed to be strong. You're not supposed to show any signs of weakness. That was just the environment in which we grew up. And that's not healthy because you need an outlet. You need to be able to talk to someone or find some way to release all those things. But mental illness has this stigma. And so, Chris, I forgot what question you had even asked me before I started.
No, it's good. I agree, and we can move on because it wasn't a.
I forgot what question
It was
you
about the it was about how you have people that you can go to at that. But I wanted to point out
asked.
one thing that you said, or a lot of things that both of you said. First, can we just give this? I know it was a movie; it's not fake, but let's just act like the real people. Like, can we give her some props for being courageous? Like, we hear these sound bites all the time. Like,
Right.
vulnerability is a strength. And all
Yeah.
too often, people use that vulnerability as a strength to be vulnerable about the stuff that's not really that tough to be vulnerable about, and then use the soundbite vulnerability as a strength. But that is a true definition of vulnerability as a strength. Like, how hard was it for her to sit on the other end of that table and bare her soul to that person, thinking that she's going to just throw me out? I care about this person, but she doesn't care. No one was going to want to be with me. I'm busted. I'm broken. I'm this. I'm that. And she had the courage to actually say her truth and bare her soul. And thank God it was reciprocated. And I
Yes.
think a lot of the times we're scared to be vulnerable like that because it takes a very empathetic,
Mhm.
passionate, good person to actually be okay with something like that. Because there's a lot of people out there that would just, I can't handle this, or I don't know what to do, or I got a meeting right now. They would have taken that meeting and bolted. So I just think that she should get a lot of props for being as courageous to be as vulnerable as she was. Because I don't know if I would have done the same thing in her mind. To your point, Paula, because of stigma. Like, I don't want you thinking I'm crazy. I ain't trying to have you fire me from my job. I need to eat. I got, you know, bills and bipolar. So
Yeah, and that's real. I mean, that's real. The things that she spoke about, those are real things. People have experienced those things, and that is one of the reasons why if
yeah.
someone does have mental illness, they'll keep it to themselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we live in a society that, I mean, we kind of make fun of mental illness. You know, we use the word crazy to describe people. One of the things that I think is beginning to happen is that we are opening up and having more conversations about mental health, mental wellness.
Yeah.
Um, and in those conversations, I believe people are starting to find that, you know what, it's not an uncommon thing,
No.
and people have depression, people have sometimes people are
Anxiety.
bipolar. Yeah, anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Anxiety is a huge thing with people. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes people have anxiety and they don't even know it.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
They don't even know it.
Yeah. I love how it's called mental health too, right? Because it really does put it in perspective. When you think of mental health, you think of like people that are like clinically depressed or have like some type of psychosis or something like that, right? The people that are on the
That is
mental,
a part of
yeah,
it. Yeah.
but it's not really that. Like, it's mental health. Just like in regular health, you have people that have like
Yes.
congestive heart failure or cancer. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
whoa, like you're sick.
Mm-hmm.
But you also have the person that just has a common cold, has a little bit of anxiety, then they don't even know it, right? A little sniffly, aka a little
Stress
depression,
in
and
your
they don't
life.
even know it. And it's just,
Mhm.
it's something that all of us, every human on the planet, I know for a fact, will end up catching a little mental health cold every now and again. And we have to be there and normalize it before we can get over it, because it's okay not to be okay sometimes. I'm not okay all the
Right.
time. But thank God I have
Right.
people that are okay when I'm not okay to let me
Mm-hmm.
know it's going to be okay and not,
Mm-hmm.
hit me with that stigma.
Mm-hmm.
So I love how it's called mental health. Isn't May Mental Health Awareness Month? Isn't
Yes,
it?
it is.
It is,
It
isn't it?
is. Yes, it
Mm-hmm.
is. Yep. Yes, it
Mm-hmm.
Right?
is.
We're bringing awareness. We're
Um,
doing our part.
yeah. I just wanted to say, to your point, I like how you talked about how, there are other things. So mental health, you're right, it's really just health, right? It's
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
really health and wellness. That's really what it is. It's not, I don't know why we've isolated it so. Like it's over here. It is not. It is, I mean, just like if you have a cold, you go to the doctor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not judged because you caught a cold. Like,
Right.
the
Right.
doctor empathizes with your situation, hears you out, diagnoses you with the cold, and tries to do the best job to cure it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing that it's not who you are. You're not the flu, Teresa.
Mm-hmm.
You're not, the a common cold, Paula. You're Paula. You're Teresa. You may
Mm-hmm.
be
Right.
Paula with a cold, and
Right.
she is whoever her name is in the movie with bipolar, but that's not who she is. It doesn't define her. And there's things that we could do to cure
Exactly.
common cold and bipolar.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things I want to bring up is how when you're going through life and life happens, how that does change your mental health.
Oh yeah.
So if you go through a loss, or I'm going to keep it 100. When I just lost a dear friend of mine to cancer 2 weeks ago, I was so stressed, but I didn't even realize how stressed I was until I ended up going to the doctor because I thought I had something going on with my ear. And he says, no, your muscles are so tight in your shoulders and in your neck. And this is all connected, that you
Yeah.
either pulled something or you did something.
A
And then
whole
it
body
was really
response.
stress. Yes. And so
That's crazy.
Teresa, I know you went through, and I don't know how much you want to share. You can share how much you want to share, but I know you went through a serious loss. And how did that change your health? I'm talking mind, body, and soul. I'm not even just talking mental. How did that change you from where you were before that tragedy happened?
So, so for everybody out there and Chris, my family, we lost our youngest child. He was 21 years old when he left us. He died by suicide. And it's a devastating loss. It is a devastating loss. And I guess the ways in which that impacted me, wow, I don't think I've ever known pain like that before.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so let's see, he died in December. We had the funeral January 2021, and I would say, well, shortly after the funeral, went into therapy, went into grief therapy, and dealt with my own depression. So dealt with it because something like that, I mean, the level of grief that you have, the grief of loss, not just for your child, but also for the future that you saw. So there
Yeah.
is, a loss of a future, um,
Wow. I didn't even
and
think
this
about that.
loss of everything that I thought he could have contributed to the world.
Right.
Um, yeah. So deep loss, deep grief, and lots and lots and lots of support from people like you, Paula, and uh, people in our community, people in our family.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
How do you
I'm
even
not
cope?
actually sure that I answered the question that you were asking.
No. Yeah, I mean, think about that though, and think about. Oof. So if you can, this is why I tell people, I'm really huge on telling people, your words will either sharpen or cut people. Because you never know what a person is going through at the time you talk to them. They can look totally fine.
That's a good
That's
and
point.
right.
they are not. Because we
Absolutely
are
right.
great at putting up facades. We're good at
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
We are good at it. We are good at demonstrating strength when we are really suffering inside, when we are struggling inside, and people don't realize it. And you say something off the wall. I mean, I'll be watching stuff on social media when people have loved
Social
ones
media.
who are girl, the comments that I see people say when somebody has lost someone. I'm like, do you all really feel this way? Or do you really feel this way? Because I don't understand.
One of the things that I remember I encountered was, we said, what happened. I was very open about the fact that my son died by suicide.
Mm-hmm.
And I cannot tell you the number of people who were in my inbox wanting to know details. How exactly
Yeah.
did he shoot himself?
Yeah.
Did
Like,
he insensitive? And
instant.
so anybody out there, please don't do that to
Don't do
someone
that.
who has lost someone. I understand that people are curious.
Yeah.
I get it that people get curious, but ooh, don't do that to
And
someone.
that pisses me off, Teresa, because I feel like that's like our default is being curious, right?
Yeah.
Like, why do you need to know these things when you obviously know that I'm hurting right now, that I'm going through it? Like, you need to know, like, what are you going to do? Fix it? Like, what's even the purpose of that? It bothers me. And I just feel like, and I say that because I recently had a family member that was going through some serious health issues as well. And I just got blown up by people wanting to know what's the deal, what's the info, like what's going on. And it's like I got to the point where it's like I couldn't even find the person to empathize with, to just cry to just bare my soul, because everyone was just hitting me with all this 20 questions, and I just turned my phone off. So now it's like I'm hurting, and now I'm hurting alone because of this gauntlet of people that just want to know. And I just feel like that's one of the most dangerous things that you could do for a person.
Chris, you got me on speed dial. What do you mean you over there going through this alone?
I mean, it's
I mean, wait.
I guess my and you're right. Like I got people, and that's why I appreciate the use, Paula, the people in my life. But I mean that
I get it. It's just too much coming at you.
Yeah, you retreat because now every conversation is, well, what happened? Well, what are the details? Well, what's going on? And you just don't even want to go there. And Teresa, I can't even imagine. Like, I'll keep it real. I don't know if I would have been able to make it. Like, you sitting here 2.5 years, you're stronger than I am. Like, how did you deal with this? Like, how did you deal with that?
I'm still dealing with it. I go to therapy. Maybe therapy, I understand that therapy is not for everyone, but for me, that was something that I chose to do. I chose to go to therapy. And I relied a lot on, I have a small circle of friends that I can talk to and kind of bare your soul to. I have a small circle of friends that I can do that to. And really, with grief, you kind of just have to let it run its course.
Yeah.
You walk with it, you sit with it, you eat with it, you shower with it. It is always with you. It is always a part of you. And you just have to let it run its course. When I look back now, so it's been 2 years now. So I can talk about this without crying. A year ago, that was really difficult to do. But I can talk now without crying. So,
and I'm quite
but
sure
grief
you
is
can
something that you
help.
just
And I'm quite sure you can help other people too, because you've
That's
been through it. So anybody else who's gone through that, you can actually say, I actually know what you're going through.
Yeah.
Because I went through it as well. I can't say that, right? I couldn't say that. I could be there for you, but
looks like Paula's cutting out a little bit, but Teresa, to that point,
I don't know if this is my internet connection.
It's okay, Paul. You got that dial-up, that AOL online, that net zero disc for free. Yeah, you're back.
I don't. I actually don't. I am directly in my router. This has never happened before. I don't know what's going on, y'all. This has never happened. I'm like a direct connection into, but we do have some real winds going on. So I don't know if the winds are impacting
it might be
stuff.
craziness.
Yeah.
But to your point, Paula, what would you, because you can, your trial becomes your testimony. So what would you tell your year ago self who couldn't talk about this, or your 2 year ago self who probably couldn't talk, period, because all you could think about was grief? What would you tell that you out there that may be listening right now?
Are we still on?
That was for you, Teresa. But I know you're thinking.
Was for me?
Yeah, that was for you. Yeah. What
I thought you lost it again.
I was like, damn, this is gonna be deep.
We're talking to Paula.
No, this is for you. Like,
what was that, Paula? I'm sorry. So what?
To your point, Paula.
Give me the question again. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
I'm a better communicator. Okay, I'm working. All right, I'm working on it.
All right. Let's try this again.
Yeah, but to your point, Paula, about your testimony, or your trial becomes your testimony. Teresa, what would you tell your year ago self who couldn't talk about this without crying? Or your 2 year ago self who probably couldn't at all because all you could think about was crying? Like, any advice for those people out there?
It may not seem like it's going to be okay, but it is going to be okay. In the moment, it doesn't feel like that because you're in so much pain, and you will continue to cry, you will continue to have pain, you will continue. Because for me, like, I didn't drive my car for 4 months.
Oh, wow.
I didn't drive for 4 months because so that meant I mostly stayed in the house, but, my husband said to me, "You cannot stay in the house forever. You have to go out. You have to drive." Because really, he didn't wanna drive me around everywhere. He didn't want to, but but yeah, so I stayed in the house for 4 months. I stopped going to the grocery store because my son was kind of my shopping buddy, and,
Really?
yeah, so, I there was a point where I went to Hy-Vee. I had a cart full of, groceries, and I I broke down in the middle of the aisle.
Hmm.
I mean, it was yeah, it was bad, but, I mean, you have those moments. You're going to have hard moments,
Mhm.
but you will get through them. Grief, it does stay with you,
Mhm.
but you learn to carry it differently. I think I read something somewhere where it says that, it leaves a hole, but what happens is we heal around it. So we learn how to carry it differently. So I would say that you'll learn how to carry grief differently. And there will be days when you'll see something that reminds you of the person that you lost, and you'll probably cry. You might get to the point where sometimes you'll laugh because it'll be a happy memory. I've learned to now bring forth happy memories about. So I go in the grocery store and I laugh because I think to myself, "Oh, he would probably be putting something in the cart that I would not approve of that didn't wanna buy, but I usually ended up buying anyway,
Yeah.
so he'd probably be sneaking it in the cart, so I laugh about that because that actually happened often, and I'd look down and I'm like, I didn't say I
I didn't
was
put this.
buying 2
Yeah.
bags of Doritos. I didn't agree to that, but, I mean, though things like that, I can do now, but a year ago, I couldn't do that.
Let me ask you this. Did you ever, in your wildest dreams, think you would be able to be this strong?
Mm.
To be able to carry something like that, and to your point, turn it into, hold it differently, hold it the way you know you need to hold it, even though it's a heavy load. It's a heavy
Mhm.
weight to
A
bear.
heavy load.
Did you ever think
Absolutely
that
it
you would get this strong?
no, no, because that literally felt like losing a part of myself. That felt like, I mean, that it is a surreal experience. It really is. When I go to the cemetery and I see his headstone and it has his name, I have to remind myself that, yep, this is real. Yep, this happened. So, yeah.
Let me ask you this, just to follow up to that. Um, and it might be, and I'm sure too soon to tell, but what do you think is possible because of that strength? Like, why do you think, because of the strength that you have now, what are you going to do with it? Like, you have wider shoulders than you probably ever thought imaginable. Is there anything
Mhm.
that you think of picking up now that maybe before would have been impossible, but now it's possible because of the strength that you have, because of this terrible, terrible weight that you've had to bear?
Well, one of the things that I committed to do, and I was actually, I would say, a mental health advocate before his passing. But I remember laying in bed one day and thinking, okay, so this thing has happened.
Yep.
What are you going to do with this part of your life?
Mm.
You now have this experience and this knowledge. What are you going to do with that? And I thought about the fact that I've always been a mental health advocate. And in my 20s, I was really, I wanted to become a therapist. I love helping people. And I started really thinking, okay, so how can I how can I really serve people in the way that I want to? And the thing that came to me was become a therapist.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I decided that I would enroll at well, first I had to get accepted, and they did accept me. But I'm studying to become a clinician, to become a therapist. And for me, and that is not to say that anybody else would do that. You know, everybody's experience is different and how
Yeah.
they handle things. But I decided that for me, I didn't want another family,
Mm.
another young person um, to go through that. And I wanted to be able to help people, offer them some tools, some different perspectives, and a different way to end their stories. And I don't mind holding somebody's hand through a difficult situation. I don't mind doing that.
That's beautiful.
Actually, that is a great segue into this next video clip I want to show you right quick. And then we're just going to end it off with just loving on each other and giving some motivational, inspirational advice to people. But check out this clip real quick.
Hey.
You've been accused of practicing medicine without a license. It's a very grave charge, son. Are you aware that it's unlawful to practice medicine without a medical license?
Yes, sir, I am.
Are you aware that running a medical clinic without the proper licensing can place both you and the public in a great deal of danger?
Is a home a clinic, sir?
If you are admitting patients and treating them, physical location is irrelevant.
Yes, sir. Will you define treatment for me?
Yes, treatment would be defined as the care of a patient seeking medical attention. Have you been treating patients, Mr. Adams?
Well, sir, I live with several people. They come and go as they please. I offer them whatever help I can.
Mr. Adams, have you or have you not been treating patients at your ranch?
Everyone who comes to the ranch is a patient, yes. And every person who comes to the ranch is also a doctor.
I'm sorry.
Every person who comes to the ranch is in need of some form of physical or mental help. They're patients. But also every person who comes to the ranch is in charge of taking care of someone else, whether it's cooking for them, cleaning them, or even a simple task as listening. That makes them doctors. I use that term broadly, gentlemen, but is not a doctor someone who helps someone else? When did the term doctor get treated with such reverence as, oh, right this way, Dr. Smith, or, excuse me, Dr. Scholes, what wonderful foot pads, or, pardon me, Dr. Patterson, but your flatulence has no odor. At what point in history did a doctor become more than a trusted and learned friend who visited and treated the ill? Now, you ask me if I've been practicing medicine. Well, if this means opening your door to those in need, those in pain, caring for them, listening to them, applying a cold cloth until a fever breaks. If this is practicing medicine, if this is treating a patient, then I am guilty as charged, sir.
Did you consider the ramifications of your actions? What if one of your patients had died?
What's wrong with death, sir? What are we so mortally afraid of? Why can't we treat death with a certain amount of humanity and dignity and decency and, God forbid, maybe even humor? Death is not the enemy, gentlemen. If we're going to fight a disease, let's fight one of the most terrible diseases of all, indifference. Now, I've sat in your schools and heard people lecture on transference and professional distance. Transference is inevitable, sir. Every human being has an impact on another. Why don't we want that in a patient-doctor relationship? That's why I've listened to your teachings, and I believe they're wrong. A doctor's mission should be not just to prevent death, but also to improve the quality of life. That's why you treat a disease, you win, you lose. You treat a person, I guarantee you'll win, no matter what the outcome.
Hitting me with all the movies. Patch Adams is going on the list.
We're getting all the feels today.
We're getting
all
it,
the
right,
feels.
Teresa? Hey, we're getting it.
Patch Adams. Yeah, the reason I picked that one wasn't necessarily that I agree that you should be out here being a doctor or anything like that. That wasn't the reason. But I like what Robin Williams was saying there. Where did we lose just being human? Treating people with humanity. Where did we lose that? And that was the piece that really resonated with me, is not being able to, forgetting that we're here for each other, to help each other, no matter what we're going through.
You know what was powerful for me too is it's really your story, Teresa, because I have personally spoken to, clinicians before. I think that somebody schooled in psychology therapy, psychiatry makes a difference. I really do. But what I also know is that experience trumps just book reading, formal education 10 times out of 10. And then when you kind of combine those beautiful things, like to your point, a terrible weight with an equally, I would not equally, but not even close, but another extremely heavy thing like getting a degree in psychology, psychiatry, counseling. That's tough. It's not easy. So you got to get that. Now you have both of these things, and your ability to treat patients is going to be infinitely times better, I feel, than just somebody saying, oh, I want to go to school for psychology. If you were in your 20s and you got the degree, the way that you treat people and talk to people and empathize with people and hold their hands like you're going to now, because of going through this life that you've lived and experiencing the thing that you experienced, you're going to be infinitely times better at doing the things that you're doing and accomplishing your mission of making sure another family never goes through this than you were if you were just to have gone and got the degree in the first place. And I feel like that's something that we're missing in our society as well. Like, you're going into it for a reason. Like, you have a reason, and it's going to be powerful.
Purpose, yeah.
You have a purpose. Like, it's a true, passionate, deep felt purpose. And I wish I could take the cut from you, reverse the hands of time and say, hey, let me take this purpose away from you because it never happened. But I also am excited to see the kind of impact you're going to make in the families that don't even know you exist yet, won't ever watch this podcast, but will have their son sitting in your couch and you get to talk to him and make it all better. Like, I'm excited for that.
I hope so. Thank you for that, Chris. I appreciate that. And looking at that scene, I think so many things resonated with me. Robin Williams talked about, the humanity of a person. And you've heard me speak in such broad terms about what I think is important, that empathy is important.
Yep.
I talk about connection and community, and all of those things were encompassed in that scene, in his monologue when he was speaking. And I think when I when I look forward into the future and what I think about what we can offer, I think we need to remember that we are social animals. We're social creatures. We are indeed, and in fact, wired for connection.
Yeah, we are.
Wired for connection. And that's what makes us human. We're wired for connection. We're wired for love. We're wired for understanding. and we are capable of understanding and loving and connecting with one another. And if we're going to change the stigma about mental illness, we have to remember those things, and combine that with um, understanding that we need elected officials
Mm,
that understand that um, things like, having enough food, having a job that will support a family, um, having people just having the ability to be free to be who they are, not to be discriminated against, also mental health. So to a person's ability to feel like they belong, right?
mhm.
So I guess I have a lot to say about it.
Well, that's good.
I don't know. I just really feel that we need to keep in mind that we're human, that we're all connected, all of us. It doesn't matter what side of the political spectrum you fall on. Um, it doesn't matter what your socioeconomic status is. We're all connected, and any and everybody can and will be impacted by mental health at some point in their lives.
I feel
And
like
I think we need to be intentional about how we hold space for one another, how we show up for one another.
read.
We need to be intentional about that,
You,
because
you
that's
know
what
what?
humans do. That's what we should do.
Agreed.
You know what? You gave me an image, a visual image in my mind, because you said we're wired for connection. I couldn't agree
We
more.
are.
And I feel like going back to that first video, those two connected. And they connected in like the strongest way. Like I think of a magnet. Remember those old school like red, not the U ones, but the squares. And they have the positive on the one side and the negative on the other side. And what do opposites do? They attract, right? They, and that negative, I'm torn up, I'm less than, I'm nothing, connected with somebody who said, no, you're not. You're more than a conqueror. You're better than you think you are. You're going to be okay. And that connection was strong because those two opposites attracted. But what's on the opposite side of both of those magnets? There's a negative side on the person who was strong and positive, and there's a positive side on that negative person that didn't see any light. And they're going to connect with the opposite. And as long as we keep connected, we find people in their lowest lows when we're positive, and we reach out to people that are higher than us when they're in a negative. When we keep trying to connect, as long as we do that, we'll make a chain that's strong and we'll be connected. I don't know why I got this connection magnet thing going on in my head right now, Teresa, but you hit me with that connection. I just wanted to share that
Because
with the
connection,
audience.
I mean, are we truly human if we can't connect with one another? Because that is wired into you. It is. It's wired into you. It's wired into me. It's wired into you, Paula. Connection is who we are.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also wired into us to stay away from the opposite for some reason. When we're high on life and feeling good, we don't want to reach out to the person that's depressed and going through it, but we need to. That's exactly what we need to do. Or when we're low as we can be, we don't want to reach out to the person that just is high on life and everything seems good. We don't want to do that. We want to wallow in our sorrows, but we need to, because that person's going to pick you up and you're going to pick somebody up. So when you're up, pick somebody up. When you're down, let someone pick you up. And if we keep reaching out and trying to connect, I think we're going to be okay. And maybe, just maybe, we could weather these storms like you've weathered, Teresa, and look up and find a purpose in the storm and become stronger and better than we ever imagined we could be because of who we've become in the storm. Maybe.
Mm. Wow. I'm just playing the song in the background.
Yeah, where'd the music come from?
I'm just playing the song in the background because this is the best song ever. We're just going to tell our storms today that they're just going to have to cease. floods are going to stop flowing. The lightning's going to stop dashing. Breakers going to stop flashing.
There's the purpose.
It's going to be over. Right. If we're going to tell these storms that they got to go. They got to go. They got to go. And we can do it. Teresa is a living witness.
Yep.
Teresa is a living witness. I'm a living witness. I tried to end. I'm a living witness. Chris, you're a living witness. We all have been through storms. We do not need to let our circumstances define who we are. We are greater than our circumstances. We don't have to let these storms come in and defeat us and to take us and to wash us away. It'll be hard going through the storm. As Teresa said, it's not easy going through it, but on the other side of that storm, that's what we got to remember. There's another side of that storm. And we can tell these storms that they need to cease. We have that control. But we're about at time. And Teresa, I don't want people to not be able to connect with you. So I want to take a moment here. How can people get to you, my friend, and stay connected with you? Tell the people.
Good. I'm on Instagram at Teresa Zilk, also Teresa Zilk on Facebook, and you can also find the Stories to Tell My Daughter Facebook page. If anybody out there, Des Moines or surrounding areas, would like to come and check out Stories to Tell My Daughter, we will be at Grandview University, Sunday, July 23rd from 4 to 6 p.m. And we will be presenting Stories to Tell My Daughter. So,
is there a mobile or a virtual option for that by chance?
I'm working on the virtual piece. We'll see how that goes. That's something I've been considering. So, but
I would love to attend.
it's a live. I say it's storytelling, but really what it is truth telling, because they tell stories that run the gamut. I mean, they're telling the truth about their lives, their lived experiences, things that they've learned, storms that they've weathered,
Right.
and how they've come out on the other side. So,
Right.
That sounds awesome.
Yes. Definitely. If we can get that live stream, we definitely will. And also, as a reminder, you can also follow Chris and I. Again, we have a lot of different social media platforms that you can follow us on. We don't have the date for our next Keeping You Wise by Keeping It Real just yet, but I'm quite sure we're going to come with something hard in June. As always, it is a pleasure and an honor doing this work with my co-host Chris and bringing on special guests such as Teresa. Again, Teresa, thank you for coming out and being here. Yes, and don't go anywhere. Chris, you don't go anywhere. But for the rest of you all, we're going to be out. We'll see you the next time. And I hope you enjoyed the show.